Halloween weekend, and this weekend we are studying afterlife after death. I hadn't really thought that through when I scheduled this. It's not linked to that on purpose, but let's admit it, this weekend may be a perfect time to talk about it because on Saturday, Halloween, a lot of families will be dressing their kids up in ways that kind of make light of or even embrace the idea of death. And on Sunday, we're going to talk about it on a more serious note, what it means to be people who have hope even when you've lost someone who has died. The longer you live, the more you see friends and family and people that you love pass away, and it's easy to lose hope. But Paul writes for Christians not to lose hope and to be people who believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So this is the basic outline of the lesson I want to go over real quick this week. For your small talk, we want to talk about funerals being a place to grieve and to hurt. However, every now and then, some really awkward and funny things can happen at funerals. I'd like to take just for a moment to talk about some of the strange things that you've seen at funerals, odd things that you've seen or experienced. And what's the funniest moment you've ever experienced at a funeral? Somebody singing the wrong song. I've been told a story about somebody who, as they were planning for the funeral, the minister was told by the family, we want you at the end of the funeral service to end by singing Jingle Bells. And the minister paused and said, are you sure? And said, yes, this was his last dying wish, and so we'd like you to sing Jingle Bells. So the worship team got together and they thought it was very awkward, very strange, and they worked on it. The service went beautiful, and at the end, by request, the worship team sang Jingle Bells, dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh as a summer funeral, and it seemed very awkward to everybody. As the people were filing out and the family members came close, one of the family members leaned in and said, I think the song request was When They Ring Those Golden Bells, not Jingle Bells. So you can imagine how awkward that would be. There's one funny moment that happened at a funeral, real life. So in our text talk, there's some issues to talk about. According to Paul, why shouldn't Christians grieve like the rest of the world when it comes to death? Or scholars suggest that the early Christians would have been very worried about Christians who died before the return of Jesus Christ. What's going to happen to people who die before Jesus Christ returns? Does that mean that they don't get to be part of the group going to heaven? Or does that mean, well, what does it mean? And that was one of the serious questions that the early church was facing. Also, he takes time to describe the return of Christ and what it will actually look like. We see mirrors of this image in Matthew chapter 24, one of the passages I suggest that you look at together. In our Life Talk section, we want to cover several issues about hope and losing hope. When you're losing hope, how do you handle or cope with it? And what or who has helped you get through times of despair? Despair is by definition the opposite of hope. And if we can kind of unpack that, I think it will help. When you're struggling with hope, do you tend to fall or do you tend to fight? When you feel your hope kind of drifting away from you, do you tend to stand up and want to scream to the world and say, hey, I am losing hope here, I need help? Or are you a person that just quietly drifts off into the distance without ever demanding or asking for help? And when you're losing hope or have the strength to fight for faith, how can your friends in Christ help you best? Help your friends understand how they can help you. Our final point this week is what you can do this week to increase hope and faith and fight back despair and weakness in your life and in others. What can we do? Going beyond talk, beyond words, what can we do to help our friends, to help our families move beyond the despair that they have? I hope that this weekend you give time to think about Paul's writings and understanding why it is that Christians aren't lost in despair completely because of the hope that we have in the resurrection. We believe in the resurrection, we believe in the truth of it, the fact of it, but sometimes we really struggle with our belief. And so this Sunday, we're going to welcome all the doubters. We're going to welcome all those who are struggling with their faith. I want to welcome and encourage all the people who are hurting because they've lost loved ones. They're hurting because they've struggled with life and death situations.